Yeah, that's right. Big Seven's back. Back making some SuperCoach content. We'll see how long this lasts. But with the BBL season approaching, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I feel about the fixtures and uh, certain player takes and all that jazz, I thought, let's make a return to the fold, see how things go, and hopefully continue it over to AFL next year and potentially even NFL next year. In terms of AFL, I did that team reveal last year. Not sorry, yeah, it was 2024. So yeah, last year did that team reveal. I think that was done like a week or two before the season started. Didn't end up making a follow up to that. My plan was make a round one video with my team actually in it. Wanted to keep a few things close to my chest, but ended up recording that round one video. Didn't have any sound on it. Decided, oh well, I'll re-record it another time. Ended up getting sick for about 3 weeks, and at that point, I decided to scrap 2024 of the AFL year. Ended up doing pretty well in the end. So kind of a little bit annoyed that I didn't put content out that year because I ended up doing well. And I didn't also want to be that guy that starts making videos again and have the perception that I'm doing it because I was doing well. So yeah, ended up coming 72nd in AFL last year. This previous year, ended up coming 163. So 2 solid years of AFL, and then BBL last year. Yeah, that just didn't turn out going well. Again, didn't do any content, but my season was over very quickly. Week one was pretty pivotal last year with the amount of doubles uh, that were in week one and the shortened season, and really the lack of other doubles throughout the year, which made it harder to catch up. So my week one last year, and essentially my starting team for BBL wasn't any good. Ended up deciding that instead of pushing for overall, I would try and push for the week three weekly, which had two teams on the double, with that being the Sixers and the Heat, but also with them having a game that was expected to be rained out. So I thought I'll target that double game week because others won't be going for it. And as predicted, the game was mostly washed out and I didn't gain any advantage there. So ended up 3,600. It is what it is. But we should be doing better this year. A few more doubles to attack. I think every week this year has at least one double on it, which is good. And without any further ado, let's just get straight into the fixture analysis. For me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. I want at least 11 players from that round one double, with a plan to hold over a lot of them throughout the season. I say at least 11. It's really 11 or 12. The thing with the 12th double is that like one of them won't be included in your round one score, which is probably not optimal. So I'm leaning towards 11, but I think there's a case where you can go for 12 doubles for week one, knowing that you're going to be trading some of them out. Because as you're going from round one to round two, if you've got 11 doubles from week one, the rest of your team is consisting of players that have future doubles, then what are your trades supposed to be going from round one to round two if you think, seeing that Hobart and the Sixers both have 2 lots of doubles down the track? But if we look into it even deeper, Hobart have got round 1, 3, and 7 doubles, so you definitely want to hold your Hobart ones for the short term. But your Sixers Sixers have got round 1, 6, and 9. And the Sixers are also a side, I'll go into it in a bit of depth later on, where they've got a few players that will return back later in the season, which should be after that round 5 to round 6 region. Players like Steve Smith, back from the Test squad, Sean Abbott if he's fit, Sam Curran, etc. So um, going from round 1 to round 2, my plan will be probably to trade out a couple of Sixers and maybe make a correction to my bench. But yeah, the starting team for me, I think the optimal strategy is to go 11 Hobart or Sixers players, and then the rest of them you want players that either have the round 2 or round 3 double. Those being, or even round 4 actually, rounds 2, 3, or 4. So those being Brisbane, Sydney Thunder, Melbourne Stars, and Perth Scorchers. I include the Scorchers in there, and I would probably prefer to have round 2 and round 3 in an ideal world, but I really like the value on some of those Scorchers players, and I'll get into that a little bit later on. I've put together what I think the starting lineups are going to be for the Hobart and Sixers. I didn't bother with the other teams because Hobart and Sixers are going to be what we're filling out the majority of the squad with. I've color coded them as well, so if they've got green next to their name, I think their position in the side is locked in, as well as their spot in the batting order. Gold is locked in the side, but their position could be variable. If they're grey, then there's a chance that they're surprise out, but I expect them to play. And the red is a player that's on the fringe of the side, could easily be replaced if the team feels like going in a different direction. So I'll start with Hobart. Mitch Owen at the top of the order. That's locked in. The spanner in the works is he sustained a leg injury last weekend. I think it was in a Shield game. I haven't heard anything about it. So at this stage, I'm expecting him to be at the top of the order for Hobart. But if he ends up missing time, that's a huge blow for Hobart. Also, frees up a bunch of cash in our SuperCoach sides because if he is fit, then 100% I'll pick him. He had his breakout year last year. He's also added a bit of bowling as well, although with that leg injury, does he actually bowl or not? That remains to be seen. But still, just with how dominant he was at the top of the order last year, it's just a very easy captaincy option and someone I wouldn't feel right about fading in round 1 if he's fit. The rest of their order, I think, is really variable. I think Tim David, Matt Wade, Ben McDermott are all reasonable chances to open. I've gone for David in my projected lineup just because he did it for Australia recently and he looked at home doing it. And I think that could appeal to Hobart, having both Owen and David at the top of the order for that power play period. They could really take the game away from opposition sides while the ball is still hard and with the fielding restrictions out. David could easily go back to his role last year where he's basically came in and once he ended up coming in around that 12 to 14 over mark, they would just take the surge. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do something different, especially with that opening spot kind of vacant. Wade has opened in the past, but he seems to be settled in that middle order. And McDermott, I mean, I've seen he's opened in Hong Kong Sixers and other Mickey Mouse T20 tournaments. I think he will end up batting down the order, though. And yeah, having Wade and McDermott at 4 and 5, yes, they can be explosive, but they can also anchor down the innings a bit if Hobart get off to a bad start. So yeah, David's my projection for the top of the order, though. That's one that I'll need to see practice games and team sheets to really get a grasp on. Ryan Ahmed, he's a very interesting one because he's an international, relatively young English, bowls some spin as well. In the 100, he batted at 3 at times, but he also batted at 6 at some times. He's also a player that is under a bit of an injury cloud. He was supposed to play in the Wines tour down here, but pulled out of that because of a injury. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. But he's expected to be fully available for his BBL commitments. He's just in grey just because until he's fully fit, there's going to be some degree of some degree of I guess questionableness. That isn't a word, but that doesn't matter. So yeah, if he is batting at three, he's an absolute lock. If he bats at 6 or 5, then it becomes a bit trickier because you wouldn't be sure exactly what his role is. I'll go through the bowlers later, but he's someone that definitely could bowl his full complement, or he could just not bowl at all, depending on what Hobart really see him as. Do they see him as a lower order batsman that's more of a part-time bowler, or do they see him as this weapon they can put up the order and can also bowl? So again, that's going to be something really worth watching. And then I've got Nikhil Chowdhury down at 6. He can hit some fast runs down the order. More of a part-time bowler as well. I'll go through the bowling a bit later. Yeah, probably someone that doesn't interest me at that price point unless he was unexpectedly at like 3 or maybe 4. The bowling options: Jordan, Ellis, Hussain, Meredith. Those guys are all locked in and should be at 7, 8, 9, 10 respectively. And then Billy Stanlake at 11. I don't think he'll have much of a role, but he will have a role. There's a few fringe options that could replace him, or they could even go for like a Mac Wright in the starting 11 because they've got enough bowling there. But I think Stanlake has the inside track to being in that best 11. Although the role, I'll get into the bowlers just in a sec, I don't think will be much there. So for the bowling, I've got that on the right-hand side. The over variance is basically the variability of the overs in a game. So for someone like Alice or Meredith, I expect them to get 4 overs every game. But someone like Rayan Ahmed, he could be anything. He could be anywhere between 0 and 4 overs. And then the expected is probably what I'm guesstimating on a typical game, or basically the average throughout the season. So someone like a Hussain, I think he bowls 4 in most games, but there could be some pace-heavy wickets where he only bowls 1 or 2. So yeah, in terms of depth for Hobart, it's going to be Meredith and Alice. Chris Jordan has bowled some depth in the past, and that probably continues. I'm not sure if I'm making this up, but I think last year, Hobart's last 4 overs, a lot of the time it would be Alice bowling the 17th, Jordan the 18th, Meredith the 19th, and then Alice the 20th. I'm not sure if I'm making that up or not, but that feels like that feels logical, and I think that's what they were doing last year. So yeah, Alice and Meredith, they're the two to attack for me. Chris Jordan should bowl his complement most of the time, although there were some times last year where he wasn't introduced until the second half of the inning. So through the first 10 overs, he didn't bowl a single over. And he could be one that, as he's getting older, or if it's a spin-dominated wicket, that he gets some overs cut from him. Hussain, he's a spinner from Bangladesh. He's also listed as a batter in the game, but for Bangladesh, he's batted at 9 most recently. So I'm not expecting him to catapult up the order. But yeah, in terms of spin, he did really well in the T20 World Cup last year. And if there's one thing I know about Australians in this competition, they don't handle spin very well. If we look back to the past, we've had guys like Peter Hadzoglu and Paddy Dooley both come into the Hurricanes lineup and both be really troublesome for Australian batters. And so I'm hoping Hussain can be a bit of the same. And then, yeah, your periphery bowlers, Billy Stanlake, I think he'll bowl 1 or 2 overs at the start of an innings. Maybe he gets extended if he's bowling really well. But I expect him to just be that new ball bowler that bowls some heat and doesn't, yeah, is basically relegated to a fielder after the fifth or sixth over. Ryan Ahmed, kind of mentioned him. He could be anything. And then Mitch Owen, I'm not sure how much he bowls, especially if he's carrying that leg injury. He could be someone that doesn't bowl at all. And for Hobart last year, didn't bowl very much. But in the Australian T20 side, he did end up bowling a few overs. So that could be another string to his bow that Hobart look to add. And then your other periphery options, Nikhil Chowdhury, he's bowled in the past, but I expect that to be diminished this year because of all of the other options that Hobart have. And Tim David, yeah, he's a part-timer that can bowl, but again, with the other bowlers ahead of him, I think it's really a break glass in case of emergency type of option. Going on to the Sixers, and they're kind of the opposite of Hobart, where Hobart, I'm pretty confident in the bowlers that will be playing, and the batters, I'm fairly confident that the six I've listed will be the six in their starting lineup, unless they decide to bring in Mac Wright for like a Stan Lake. But I think that top six, I'm pretty confident in the names, but not the positions. Whereas the Sixers, I'm pretty confident in the names and the positions that are going to be batted in, especially from the start of the year. Steve Smith will come back into the Sixers side after the Ashes, but we don't have to worry about that yet. He probably just comes in for Daniel Hughes. Yeah, the top six, Babar Azam, he should just be a class above this competition. He's someone I'd love to pick in my starting side. Josh Philippe, he's boom or bust, but he can hit runs quickly. And he's still relatively young as well. So there's a bit of upside there, although he is probably fairly priced at his current price at the moment, I think. Daniel Hughes, Moses Enriquez, Jordan Silk can really put them all in the same bucket of players that will tick the scoreboard over, but probably nothing over like a 120 strike rate unless they really go on and have a monster innings. More the runner ball or just over that kind of operators. You typically don't want them in this format unless they're really cheap, because for batters, strike rate is a big part of their scoring, and I don't think there's any value in Hughes or Silk. On Riggs, you could maybe make a case for as the cheaper of the three, but he's also an old man, so don't want to go for any of those three personally. Jack Edwards at 6, he's going to get a decent amount of overs as well. If we're looking at a depth chart, I have him as like the number 2 bowler in their lineup. Maybe bowl some depth and can hit some handy runs at the end of an innings. So he's someone I'm keen on. Dorsius I've got in gold just in case. Sixers could decide to play Joel Davies over one of the bowlers I've listed below him. I don't think they do, but that would just push Dorsius down to an 8 instead of a 7. We've seen Dorsius develop his batting over the last couple of years and get some handy runs at the end of innings and quickly as well. He can clear the fence. So in terms of batting, I think he should be at 7. Probably still is if Davies plays, to be honest, and will be their main strike bowler. So interested in him. And then I'll move over to the bowling side. So yeah, Dorsius is who I would expect to be bowling at the death. And then out of the other bowlers, I'm not sure if it's Edwards. I'm not sure if it's Richardson. I'm not sure if it's Kerr. I think it could change on a game by game basis, depending on what Moses is thinking and what position the moon's in, and what the state of play is in the game. So I'm not sure who else is going to bowl death alongside Dorsius, but I'd be pretty confident in Dorsius bowling death, at least until Sam Curran comes into the side and Sean Abbott. Once those two are in the team, I think one or probably both of those will be bowling the death overs, but that won't happen until I think it's around round 5 or round 6. So I'm not worried about those guys yet. In the meantime, you could have any of Edwards, Richardson, and Kerr bowling death. In terms of expected overs, I think it's basically Dorsius, and then you split up the 16 overs between Edwards, Richardson, Kerr, Chauhan, and Murphy. And if they could end up playing a Davies over a Murphy or a Kerr potentially, or even a Chauhan, or even rest Richardson. But yeah, if that happens, then I think it lifts up the other four bowlers, and Davies more like a one or two over type of guy. Yeah, I think Edwards, Richardson, Kerr, Chauhan, Murphy. It probably changes on a game by game basis. Depends on who's bowling well. Depends if it's a spin heavy wicket. We could see games where they only bowl four overs of spin, so Chauhan and Murphy only get two apiece, and all of the pacers get four. Or it could be a spin dominant wicket where Chauhan and Murphy get eight between them, and then you have to split eight between Edwards, Richardson, and Kerr, or just something in between. So I think that variance is there game on game. I've got Edwards expected for because I think he would be my second preferred bowler in that lineup. So I think he'll get the four most games, and then the rest of them, and it really does vary between 2 to 4 for most of those bowlers in both games. The other thing to mention is in this starting lineup, Sixers have only got the two internationals because Sam Curran has the ILT20 commitments. The Sixers could elect to sign another player, and I think if they end up doing that, it's probably a bowling option, and that could knock out like a Kerr or a Richardson or a Murphy or even a Chauhan out of the squad. So that's another thing to monitor. And as mentioned, from that midpoint part of the season, they'll get Steve Smith back certainly. They'll get Curran. Sean Abbott, he was part of the Ashes squad, but then got injured. He comes back at some point as well. Stark is technically on the Sixers lineup and in the Ashes squad, but he's typically not somebody that plays BBL. He normally elects to sit the BBL out and get his body right, which is fair enough when you're just completely dominating England and other Test nations. So fair enough to Starkey. We'll let him sit out. But yeah, that creates a selection squeeze in the second half of the year, particularly for those bowling options. So in terms of players that you want to keep long term, I think Dorcas is definitely fine as a bowler to keep in the long term, but guys like Richardson, Kerr, Chauhan, Murphy, I would feel a lot less confident about. So in terms of the team, this is how we look. In terms of team structure, I didn't want to go for more than 3 pure batters or 3 pure bowlers from each team. That kind of cannibalizes your upside, even in a double game week, because I mean, if you think about bowlers, for instance, if you're picking 4 bowlers and you're hoping they spread 10 wickets across them in a game, and then that's even assuming they get 10 wickets. So I think it's just harder to reach that upside if you're going too many pure batters or too many pure bowlers from a single team. I think it's possible that Hobart end up taking 20 wickets over the course of 2 games playing the Thunder and the Stars, and it ends up that you maybe wanted to have 4 of those pure bowlers, but I'll back in the process. I'll go for a maximum of 3 pure batters and 3 pure bowlers. In terms of team split, 6 for the Hobart Hurricanes, 5 for the Sixers. I've got more confidence in the Hobart options, and I don't particularly rate the Stars either. So I think Hobart could, take 10 wickets against them pretty easily and put up a decent score. In terms of the Hobart players, Mitch Allen, he's a lock if he's fit. Tim David, I'm not 100% sure on this pick, but with Hobart having round 1 and round 3 doubles, I'm pretty scared of fading him, knowing that he's an explosive batter. He could very easily have some big scores that just blow you out of the water. Can be a bit boom or bust as well. So I can understand people that want to fade him, but over the course of the first 3 weeks, I'm just scared that he has 1 or 2 massive scores, and that ends up being costly. Definitely more of a palatable pick if he's at the top of the order as well. Brian Ahmed, he's the mystery box, but I like mystery boxes. we'll see where he's listed as well. And I'm less inclined to pick him if he's listed at, say, 6 behind Nikhil Chowdhury. But yeah, if he's listed anywhere near the top of the order, I'm picking him and hoping that he gets a decent bowling quota. In terms of the bowlers, Ellis and Meredith, don't need to speak too much about them. They'll be bowling the death overs and pretty keen on those. And then Rishad Hussain is the third bowler I've gone for. Can make a case for Chris Jordan, but he's an old man and I don't particularly rate him. Whereas Rishad Hussain, and he did well in the T20 World Cup last year, and Australians don't like spin bowlers, so he's in the side for now. Onto the Sixers players, Philippi and Babar Azam at the top of the order. Philippi less keen on, but he fills out that keeper role. Babar Azam, he should just be a class above the competition. Even at an elevated price for a batter only, I think he should just be too good for the Australian competition. Jack Edwards as that all-rounder who should bat at 6 and get a decent bowling complement. Pretty keen on him. Ben Dorshus is the strike bowler. And then the last position I'm unsure about. I've got Hayden Kerr in there for now. Not sold on him at all, to be honest. And he is handy with the bat and handy with the ball, but um, I'm tempted to go for a Richardson or a Chauhan over him. I'll probably decide that after some practice matches and seeing if Kerr bowls some death overs as well. That'll be instrumental in making a decision. And then in terms of the rest of the side, it's players that have a future double. So the Heat and the Thunder in round 2, Stars in round 3, Scorchers in round 4. Xavier Bartlett at 128k, man. I think he's underpriced. That Brisbane Heat pace cartel is seriously scary. With Bartlett, Spencer Johnson, Shane Afridi, man, Afridi is a gun. I wish I could pick him, but I can't afford him at the moment. That's another consideration if I want to knock Kerr down to someone a bit cheaper and maybe bump Bartlett up to Afridi. I might end up doing that. But Bartlett, in his own right, he's quality. And yeah, I think, any one of those Brisbane Heat bowlers is going to be scary and good. Bartlett just being the cheaper one, he's in the side at the moment. Speaking of Heat bowlers, Michael Neser, who I didn't mention in that pace cartel, but man, he's a good bowler in his own right as well and handy with the bat and always taking catches on the boundary. 93k is just way too cheap for him. The question mark is if he will be in the Ashes squad or not. He's in there at the moment, but Australia's pace stocks have taken a bit of a hit, so probably in there more as insurance. I'm hoping, I think he was the last man into that squad, so I'm hoping he's the first out when Pat Cummins is fit. And it's sounding like that could be for the Brisbane Test, so that's only in a couple of weeks. Hoping Neser gets released before then, and if he does, he's just way too cheap to pass up in this format. Cam Bancroft, he's a relatively cheap keeper with the round 2 double. I'm unsure if I want to go for him or Joe Clark or Sam Harper. Not really that keen on any of the three, to be honest, but Bancroft, he should be batting at 3, and he's capable of making some runs on his day. I think I've got a bit more faith in him than Sam Harper or Joe Clark, but definitely not over the moon to be picking Bancroft, but he should be okay for a double week. The Scorcher boys, Aaron Hardy, he was really good a couple of seasons ago. He's kind of battled with injuries a bit, and I'm really interested to see what his role is going to be going into the season, because in past seasons he's batted at 3 or 4 or even opened and also had a decent bowling quota. But we need to see what his role is coming into this season, and practice matches will probably be a good indicator of that. If he's batting down at 5 or 6 and not bowling, then it's not a great pick. But we have seen him absolutely dominate at the top of the order or near the top of the order in past seasons and bowl as well. So if he's anywhere near his best, he's too cheap to ignore. But if he's batting at 5 or 6, then he could potentially go for someone else. And then the other player I've got is Mitch Marsh. He's batter bowler, but I don't expect him to bowl much. But with the bat, he's been in great form for Australia, and he's another one that has dominated this level of competition before with the bat. And I don't see any reason why he can't do that being in form for his nation either. Also, with Hardy and Mitch Marsh, they play in the first game of the year. So my plan for that is to have those two as loopholes. If they do well, then I can put my loophole on, which is Anzalak at the moment, but I could easily get a batting loophole if I wanted to take Hardy in this configuration. If I don't end up going for a loophole, I think Mitch Swepson down at he's about 60 odd K is a decent option. Not someone you're thrilled to pick, but with the Stars having rounds 3 and 5 doubles, he's someone that's fieldable for those doubles. You're not thrilled about it, but as the Melbourne Stars frontline spinner, he should be bowling his complement of overs. On vice captain and captain, I think I will go for Azam vice captain and hope that he does well against the Scorchers, who they've lost some bowling in the off season. Andrew Tye was old, but he was still a part of that team for a long time. And Jason Behrendorff going to the Gades as well weakens that bowling lineup a bit. So I think I'll go Babar Azam vice captain, and Mitch Owen, if he's anywhere near fit, he will be the captain. Otherwise, I'll go a bowling option, either a Meredith or an Alice, probably going for an Alice, I think. And I think that pretty much covers everything. I'm not sure if I'll be back before round 1 with the final team reveal. I honestly don't think it'll be too dissimilar to what I have, mainly just looking at practice games and the like. So if I'm not back before then, good luck for your season and round 1. I do plan on making some videos throughout the season. I'm not sure if it's going to be after every round or not, but definitely will be some semi-regular videos, or at least that's what I'm planning to do. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. I'll chuck a league code as well in the description, and I'll see you for the next video.